Hello, everybody. Hi. As promised, we're going to talk on teenagers' sexual health. So I'm waiting for you guys. And yes, I promised that we're going to be with Regina. She's on her way coming. So as I wait for you guys, I'm also waiting for her. Then we start our discussion. Yes, she is.
Hi.
Hi, Regina.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Your volume is a bit low. Can you increase your volume?
Okay, let me do it.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. I'm honored that you are here. How are you? Hi, Regina.
Hi, I'm good. You, how has the day been?
I've been well. Can you
Oh,
speak a bit louder if you can't go up on the volume, please?
all right. Can you hear me right now?
Yes, then that's
All right.
perfect. Much.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So, how was your day?
My day has been good, busy one.
Mm,
But I thank
yeah.
God I'm here and I'm excited to do this with you. It's
Thank
such
you.
an amazing thing. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm truly honored. And for everybody who's joining in, please say hi and let us know what your experiences are as far as sexual health for our teenagers is concerned. So we just go straight to our topic of discussion. And today we are going to talk on sexual health. Specifically, because I know it's quite broad. So today we are going to narrow down to the early sexual debut that we have heard, um, be it in newspapers, on TV, on radio, that our teenagers are actually starting to engage with sex from a very, very young, tender age. So, really, what we are going to discuss today is what are the effects, what are the contributing factors, and how can we protect our teenagers. So, if you know a parent or a teenager who will benefit from this discussion, please remember to tell them to join us. So, Regina, we start with the first things first. Maybe you can start by defining what exactly, first of all, just sexual health is, sexual health, sexuality is. I know it's quite broad before we narrow down to really what we're going to talk about today. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you again for having me today, inviting me to have this discussion. I am so excited, but I'll not even forget to say I felt a bit anxious. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But I'm here and I'm so excited. And when I had a topic about sexual health, I was like, okay, this is sexual health. This is like speaking about a taboo. We know that in our
Yeah.
society, we are not allowed to talk about sexuality. We are not allowed to talk about matters sexual, and these are things we experience since we are young. You see people
Mm,
kissing, and the reaction you even get from your parents, it's weird.
mm,
It's like
mm,
if you watched on them watching TV and there was a scene that involved any sexual contact, they will switch the TV off very fast. Then you're left
yeah.
wondering, okay, what is happening? And
Yeah.
as a parent, I've been there. I have two sons. My first son is 4 years. My second son is 2 years, and I have read
Mm,
so many questions about sexuality. And
yeah.
there's a time he goes to school and is told, kissing is bad. So
Mm,
he comes home, he sits me down with the dad. Actually, he's a very
mm,
courageous boy. He tells Mom and Dad, I want to tell you something. Then I'm like,
mm,
yes, tell us what is happening. Then he tells, do you know, Mom and Dad, kissing is very bad. You are not supposed to
exactly.
kiss. So I asked
Mm,
him, who told you about this? Then he goes and says, teacher said, you are not
mm,
supposed to kiss. It is very bad.
mm,
And then I
mm,
realized from that moment I lost that
mm.
that chum I used to get on my cheek every time I tell him, chum, chum. Then he tells you,
Yeah.
Mom, no, 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 no. He just does his finger like this, Mom, no, 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 stop.
Wow.
So when we talk about sexuality, as much as it's not accepted in our society, it's quite a very
Mm,
important thing we need to to let our kids know. We need to tell them what are sexual feelings. And those are things that occur naturally. How do you respond to them as a kid? And sometimes when I talk about teenagers, I tell parents, do you remember the stage terrible 2? That was the 2 years old. How were you able to handle your kid then? How was your relationship with your kid? Because if that stage was terrible, believe you me, there's a possibility that teenagehood is going to be terrible. Because these are 2 stages where kids are learning about autonomy and, developing to be individuals. They test your boundaries, they push your boundaries, they are trying to know, how can I push you far? And if boundaries are not instilled at this age, sexuality is going to have a problem. And this is learning about the sexual organs, the sexual body, what happens, the development as you grow up. When you talk about teenagers, they are breaking voice, they are developing their sexual organs, the girls are having their boobs growing, the boys are having their voice breaking, they're having these wet dreams. It's a very confusing state. And when they don't get to know these things, sometimes it gets confusing. And that's now why we come and have this topic about sexuality and sexual health. Do they know these things? When these things are happening, what are the responses that they're getting from their parents? What are they learning from their peers? What are the teachers telling them? So these are the things we're looking out to continue and discuss today. And there's something I wanted to mention before we started this, and this was more about sexuality. These are things we learn very early in life. And as a parent, there are things you need to teach your kids from the start, from those 2 years. When your kid reaches out to you as a father and they want to kiss you on the lips, how do you respond to that? I remember this the time I was seeing a discussion online about kissing, kids and parents kissing. And, I saw many comments and I was going through mothers and, fathers, they were discussing about, I cannot kiss my kid, even if it was our Zungu. Those are for the white people. And then I was left wondering, when your kid reaches out and they try to kiss you as a parent, what are you supposed to do? Do you push them away? Do you explain to them? How do you react? Because your acceptance of your own sexuality as a parent is going to influence how you're going to teach this kid about sexuality. How they look at it, is a pop on your lip and they want to kiss you. As a father, this is your daughter. What do you do then? You realize some fathers will respond in a way that they teach them kissing is good. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's an expression of love. When do you do it as a kid? When do you get to explore this part? But then there's that parent who will be like, what? Stop. That is very bad. That is very wrong. And what does that kid learn again? Now they shy away from their sexuality. They shy away from exploring what they're feeling from inside, the sexual feelings. But then again, we have these parents who will explore, they exploit that kid, and then we have the result of incest from there, where now the kissing leads to, because as an adult, as a normal human being, you will have sexual feelings. And if you're not able to control that, this could lead to incest. Then we call that you broke the innocence of that kid. Yeah. And if we were to go, yes, go ahead.
So what you're saying is we should allow children to express their sexuality, but I think as parents, it's very important that we draw boundaries. And I like the fact you brought in the example of your son, because you see, as a teacher, if you just say it as a blanket, kissing is bad, and then they come home, they see mom and dad kissing, or now you want to actually hug them and kiss them, and then they push you away. You see, that is a misinformation actually, because it's information given without clear boundaries of what to do, when to do, and with who do you have to kiss. And I think that's very important, which is sometimes, especially if you're having boys, will lead to boys who are disconnected, especially to their emotions. Because I know girls and their moms, dads and their girls can really have that very strong bond, and they usually express their love differently, depends with everyone individuality. I think that's very, very important. Now, when it comes to sexual debut, now coming to our topic of discussion, sexual debut. Okay, maybe for those who are watching us, sexual debut is when you start having sex. The first time you start having sex, we say that that was the time of your sexual debut. And according to World Health Organization, we say someone has an early sexual debut if they start engaging in sexual activity when they are not 15, under 15 years, who start engaging with sexual activity. That's what is defined as early sexual debut by WHO. I know each one of us has their own different belief system. Of course, the religion usually cancels the whole idea of even having sexual intercourse before marriage. I think all religions usually advocate on that. But again, each one of us has a different belief system, and for the purposes of this video, we are going to talk on the scientific aspect. And when we're going to talk about our personal experiences, we are going to be very clearly, this is what you believe in as an individual, which is not necessarily right, or we are imposing it onto you, but we'll say what we believe in. So different countries have different sexual debuts based on researches that were done. I'll just go through a few. Nigeria is 15 years. Jamaica is 11, especially for girls, they start quite early, 11 years. In the US, most of them less than 13 years, depending on the state. In East Africa, the age is the same, like what we have said. In Kenya, it's 16, 17 years. And in East Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, it's around the same age. And the countries have the latest sexual debut are usually on the Eastern Asia, especially the countries that do not advocate for early marriages. Because I know some countries like India, they advocate for early marriages. So for them, you can see even a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old girl have been married off. But countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, those have really late sexual debut from 1920, which is actually very good. So why is it bad to start having sex early? I mean, just imagine your 13-year-old having sex. Can you just imagine that? Oh, it's like a nightmare. Oh, God forgive us. So the first thing, of course, number one, their maturity level. And so even making the decision is a problem. So they're at risk of having HIV, having all types of STI. Remember, they don't have sex with the younger boys. They usually have sex with the older men. Okay? So they cannot protect themselves, they cannot protect their emotions. They are more likely to have multiple sexual partners later in life. They're more likely to have unwanted pregnancies, teenage pregnancies. They're more likely to interfere with their education, which you'll come to see it's a biggest factor when it comes to things that may protect our girls and boys from starting early sex. And of course, when they get pregnant, they'll end up aborting for some. And most of the time, the abortion is going to be unsafe. So really, especially if you're having a girl, it's a girl who gets pregnancy, it's a girl who has complications when it comes to multiple sexual partners. It's a girl who will have abortion and they'll have the complications of abortion. So when you look at this, a girl child is on the losing side as compared to a boy child. But yes, they all can get HIVs, they all can get STIs, and they all will have problems with academics if they are going to start early, engaging early at an early age into sexual intercourse. Now, there have been a number of contributing factors, and I want you, Regina, to help me in this. There have been a number of contributing factors that push children to start engaging early in sexual activity. And as you had started to say, the first thing has been living in the rural areas. Imagine living in the rural areas have been shown to make it easier for girls and boys to engage in sexual activity, together with little or knowledge on sexual health. Okay, that means someone who, I want you to discuss on that, living in rural area and lack of sexual health, because this one shocked me to be. I thought girls and boys who are in the urban settings are more likely, but actually it's the other way. If you're in the rural area, you're more likely to engage in sexual activity as compared to in urban area? Please explain that.
Okay, thank you so much. So let's start rural areas. Yeah, that's where we learn about these sexual experiences. And I will
Yeah.
tell you for sure, most of the people, like if I look at the people I grew up with, the kids we used to play together and everything, actually kids 2 years old used to have sex. It's so funny. I even have someone who confessed to me their first sexual experience was at 2 years. And I look
Two
at
years.
it, my youngest son is 2 years old. And by 2 years old, they knew about sex. And this being living in the village and everything being a contributing factor. One of the things that contributes to this is the spaces in those homes. Yeah, you go and realize the parents are living in a one, those traditional houses, just a one room house. Then they have just maybe a bed, then the kids sleep down, or they have another bed for the kids just aside. And I will tell you for sure, the parents
Mm,
will definitely engage in their sexual encounters and everything. And they will
yeah.
be thinking these kids don't know what is happening. And I tell people
Mm,
kids are curious, very curious. They will listen
yeah.
to whatever is happening. They will even peep and see what is happening. And then they go practice with their friends outside. That's what
Mm,
happens. Then we have these games of, I know most of us have had it, the Chababa Mama. And I think
mm,
one of the basis of this Chababa Chabama game was the sexual part. If we have to be
mm,
honest with ourselves, without trying to sugarcoat and say it was about the cooking, we will cook as the
mm,
girls. Then we have the boys. They are doing the this. They go to work and the pretentious game, and then there's time for eating. Then there's time for sleeping. Then what used to
mm,
happen when it comes to time for sleeping? So you realize that because of especially the economical disadvantages of these kids in the rural areas, they get to
mm,
engage in sex so early and we also don't
mm.
have sexual education. There are
Yeah.
so many restrictions in those areas. Religion, especially religion plays a very big part in this, because
Mm,
what is taught in our churches and everything. It's all about
mm,
against sex and everything to do with sex education. Anything communication about sex is a taboo. So your
yeah.
parents don't even have a chance to tell you about sex. What is sex? And I will for
Mm,
sure confess to this. I learned about sex by myself. I never had my mom talk about sex. I never had my
wow.
dad talk about sex at all,
Mm,
completely up to date. Today, I'm
mm,
32 years. I've never had my mom talk about sex. And
wow.
now it makes worse. And it's another point I'm going to bring why girls also get to these early sexual encounters. We talk
Mm,
about sexual health, but we know about the periods and the pads and everything.
mm,
Those girls don't have anyone to buy them these things. So
yeah.
what again do? They engage
Yeah.
with these guys in the village to get some 50
Yeah.
bob to buy parts.
Mm,
And in this process, I'm not going to give you a 50 bob for free.
of
You know,
course. Mm,
now it
mm.
becomes the game of a pad, a 50 bob, and a sexual favor.
And a
So
sexual encounter.
again, yeah. So the economic disadvantage of these people in the villages, they lack the
Mm,
sexual education. Parents don't teach their kids about sexuality at
mm,
all. They don't teach
mm,
their kids what to expect.
mm.
So many things happen to girls. And I like the part where you mentioned that sexual encounters have more weight to the girl child
It's true.
as compared to the boy child. Because you're the
Mm,
person, the girl is the one who gets pregnant. The girl is the one who is going to stop going to school because, again, there's shame associated with you as a teenager going to school when you're pregnant. So education is
mm,
affected, your health is affected. And probably no one is going to take care of you through this process because, again, it's a taboo. You brought shame to the family. So, again, you become a victim of shame and you are
mm,
neglected. So growing up in a village, again, you lack the education, you lack the resources, the economic disadvantage. You don't learn about sexual health. There are no mentors
mm,
there most of the time. There are no
yeah.
people who could come up with this information. We also look at it right now at the digital age. We can go online
Mm,
and maybe access something about sexual health, learn a little things then.
mm,
Because I
mm.
look at it back and I wish then those things were there
There was
when I was trying to
that, yeah.
figure out my life. The first time I was having my periods, I didn't have pads, I didn't know who to talk to. My mom didn't seem to know whatever was happening in my life. And you see, all these things, it would have been so easier to get someone to do these things. Actually, if that was an opportunity that presented myself, I would have taken that way, probably. I cannot say I will not, because I didn't know what was happening. Again, when I look at things about sex, as I said, these are things I figured out by myself. I learned whatever I learned. I met them and I learned things, and I was like, oh, this is what happened. Okay, this is how it goes. Because that was not there. Yeah, so there's that part about growing the village, the economic disadvantage, lack of the information, parents not playing the part, the taboo thing from religion, and all that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, one is very good that you brought that up, because one of the other factors at the time is running is also the other bit that has also been seen is that especially the mothers, at least from the research that I was checking while I was preparing for this topic, the mother's education has great impact on how you're going to protect your children, not just the girl child, even the boy child. And I want to believe that is because most of the homes that we have, at least in the African setting, the mother seems to be the one who's very close to the children, both the girl and the boy, as compared to the father. So actually, low maternal education has been shown to be a contributing factor on at what age your child is going to start engaging in sexual activity. And then the other thing that also was brought up was the age at which the mother started having sex. I know that one also shocked me, but the explanation it's the same thing, that if you like usually as a mother, your experiences somehow, if you really don't take up that active intentional reason to actually research and learn more and become better than your parents, you're more likely to influence and shape your children based on the knowledge that your parents or your mother used. That it is. I mean, it is what it is. So if let's say by 13 or 14 you're already engaged in sex, when your girl gets to 13, 14, or when your boy gets to 13 or 14 or 15, you will not see it as a problem, them actually engaging in sex at that age. Okay? And that's why as parents, we really, really do play a big role. Okay? And one of the biggest is us parents being open, being able to share with our children all our struggles, as you said, the challenges that you went through, how you overcame them, and showing your child how different it is today based on the more advantages that they have today that we are not there, I don't know, 20 years, depending on your age, 20 or 30 years ago. So it's very, very important. The other thing was the friends they keep. I want you to talk about that, the friends they keep. Of course, they said, show me your friend and I'll tell you who you are. Now, as parents, how do we vet our children's friends? Because clearly research has shown if you're in a group of 3 or 4 girls and 1 or 2 of them have already started engaging in sexual activities, chances are they're not going to stop. But these 2 who have never been engaged in sex, they're going to start engaging in sex. Okay, it's easy to be pulled towards that side vis-a-vis you pulling the 2 who have already started engaging in sex to stop actually continuing having sex. So how do we vet our children's friends? Because that's the challenge. How do we vet? What are the telltale signs that you can actually pick as a parent, so that at the end of the day you want to tell your child, you know what, 1, 2, 3, 4 is not a good friend, and these are my reasons. I want you to talk about that.
Okay. This is quite interesting, because I think, as you said, from when you started that, you said what we learn or what we learned as parents really influence our kids, because probably those are the same lessons we're going to teach them through. They are going to learn from us. And I say most of the time, kids don't just learn from stop, do this, do this. You have to live the talk. You just don't talk. They have to see it in you. so that they can realize, okay, I see mom and dad do this. I see, this lady do this. So when you're looking at the parents of the kids your kids hang out with, you can really tell, because some behaviors you can't hide. How do they
Yeah.
treat, like if it's a man, how do they treat the opposite sex in their life? How does this
Mm,
guy treat even their wife? How do they
mm,
respond to other people, especially the opposite gender around?
mm,
Because how they are responding to this, that is what their kid is learning. That's what their kid is learning. If I'm
mm,
disrespecting my husband, that's what my
mm,
son is learning.
mm,
If he's disrespecting me, that's what, okay, that's how you treat women. That's how you treat
mm,
girls. And you see,
mm,
how you treat the opposite sex clearly influences the sexuality of your kids,
mm,
because they get to learn, oh, this is how I treat ladies. This is how I should do to them. So through observation of the parents of these kids, you can tell what happens.
mm.
What happens if my kids hang out with them? What will they learn? And again, we have
Yeah.
heard about the sleepovers, kids going to sleep in their friend's house.
Mm,
Are you
mm,
friends with your kids? You have to be friends with your kids. And how do
mm,
you get to be friends with your kids? Be open to
mm,
listen. Be conscious. Be in the present. What are they telling you? Are you listening or are you just hearing? Because
mm,
when your kids
mm.
comes, like when my son comes from school and he tells me, Mom, teacher said kissing is bad. Then I'm like, yeah, it's bad. Where did you have Where did you get
Yeah.
that word? I'm
Yeah.
reacting. He will never tell
Yeah.
me anything else. He will never.
That.
He will stop that communication from there. So
Mm,
you see, our
mm,
communication is cut. So we don't have a relation with my son anymore. So whatever
mm.
happens, I will never learn. I will never
Yeah.
know. But if you have that open channel of communication with your kids, they tell you things.
Mm,
Mom,
mm,
I saw that girl doing and doing. Then you clearly know something was wrong. What were they doing? Then they will narrate
mm,
you the story. Then you're like, you're not supposed to do this. What are the
mm,
repercussions of this?
mm.
Again, the other place we fail is you tell kids to stop something or something is bad without a reason. You have to give
Yeah.
them a reason. You cannot
Mm,
tell them this is bad. Why? Why is it bad? They will ask, actually. If there's that communication, they'll ask.
yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
never listen, you just hear, they will never
Mm,
even ask. They'll be like, oh, like, they'll just move on. And this is
mm,
the danger now, because we have teenagers who do. We have the doing, we have the thinking, and we have the feeling.
yeah.
And the doing, you can't do anything about it. They will do. And that's why I
Mm,
tell people, we talk about sexual health, not engaging in highly sexual activities, but
mm,
teenagers will still do it. Because
mm,
that's what teenagers are. They
mm,
experiment, they do things, and they will do them. So as
mm.
that your role is now finding out, how do I explain the consequences of your action? Which kind of friends are you hanging out with? Where do they come from? What is their background? How are their parents?
Mm.
So that the moment you understand the values in that home, you can be able to
Yeah.
tell them, I don't like you hanging out with that friend. One, because
Yes.
I don't like is it the music they listen to? Is
Mm-hmm.
it,
Mm-hmm.
those things, is it the things they watch? Because some of the things we
Mm,
see them, they have a lot of sexual information.
mm,
And when
mm,
you let your kids learn that information from outside, you should be the first one to tell them.
mm.
Because if you're not
Yeah.
telling them, whatever they learn from outside, it's what they
Yeah.
learn. And you cannot
Mm-hmm.
control that. So choose, look at the parents, you interact with them, know what are their values, what are their norms, how do they run
Mm,
their home, so that you know
mm.
what kind of
Yeah.
information could my kids get from these kids, and then do you discourage the relationship or do you let them continue?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's what I can say about that.
And I think that's very good because it's true actually. You sometimes most of us, number one, we don't even know who our what kids' friends are, let alone the parents. Because you see, it really takes a lot of initiative and you being very intentional to actually even know your kids' friends and even their parents, and as you said, their values. Because at the end of the day, you cannot really change that other child. The only power that you have is actually only to a child, and it's only to an extent about that child who's living in your house at that particular time. When they become an adult, they're going to be independent adults, and you can only advise them and hope that they're actually going to take your advice. So I love the fact that you said communication starts from a very young age, from the age 2. When your child sees something, when your child asks something, do you react or do you calm down and respond? Because there's a huge difference on whether or not your child is going to come in for the second and third time to ask something, vis-a-vis them saying, oh my God, I will never ask this lady anything else in my entire life. That's extremely important. The other contributing factor has been alcohol and abuse of substance. And this is a whole topic altogether, so we'll not go into the details of that. But clearly, teenagers or young children who engage in alcohol, who see parties at home, people getting drunk, people doing all sorts of things, are more likely to start engaging in alcohol at a very young age. And of course, once they getting in alcohol, we know sometimes what alcohol can do into a human body. And of course, it will also affect your sense of judgment, and you're more likely going to engage in a sexual activity, whether intentionally or by coercion, or just because you are totally disoriented with whatever is happening around you. And the other factor has been unstable family environment. It has been a biggest contributing factor, especially now where we have broken homes, so many broken homes, so many broken families, broken marriages. I want you to talk about that. How does an unstable home environment contribute to children, especially teenagers, going out there and starting engaging in early sexual activity? And for those who are watching us, we are going to do a separate day. We are going to discuss about the mental health and the needs of our teenage girls and boys as far as mental health is concerned. But I just want you to talk about this very briefly. How does you being in a broken home push you to looking for something else as an alternative to fill into that gap?
Okay, thank you for this actually. And I feel so great you ask this because I am a reparenting coach and a therapist. I
Mm,
deal with people who have grown in unstable homes, broken homes, childhood traumas and all those ones. And
mm,
just a brief on it. The reason I do this because it's something I've experienced myself. It's
okay.
something I went through, and
Mm,
I know how this can break you. And one
yeah.
thing is, I would rather run away from home and get married.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you already now get how that comes up
Yeah.
with when we talk about
Yeah.
sexuality. The home is
Mm,
so unstable. You can't even stay in that home. There is no
mm,
connection totally. You feel hated, you feel unwanted, you feel rejected. And
mm,
any person who comes your way and shows a little concern, you will
yeah.
go for them. It doesn't matter what, you will go for them. Because
Mm,
when homes are unstable, what kids feel,
mm,
I tell people, whatever you think is happening is not what the kid does. If you
yeah.
say no, if you're fighting, the
Mm,
kid will be thinking, mom and dad are fighting because probably it's me. If I
mm,
wasn't here, maybe they will not be fighting. And that's just
yeah.
how they think. They carry out the
Mm,
baggage, they carry out the burden
mm,
and think, probably if I
mm,
was not in this family, mom and dad will not fight. They don't
mm,
even love me. They don't even
mm,
recognize me. They reject me. So you grow
mm,
up feeling like an outcast. You are not
yeah.
accepted. You are rejected. You are
Mm,
abandoned. And you
mm,
see, one thing I tell people about sexuality, and this is more from a spiritual kind of,
mm,
view, it's a
mm.
way of connection. When
It
people are
is.
engaging in sex, they are
Mm,
connecting and they are
mm,
able to separate after that. It's a way,
mm,
it's a place where the life forces come, connect, then they disconnect. And this
mm,
makes life that premier pain of suffering as humanity for a
mm,
moment disappear. So when you're
mm,
going through now the pain from home, from the rejection and everything, it's so easy to engage in sex because of the pleasure it brings for that moment. And it's
Yeah.
something wired so deep in the human brain. It's like a
Mm.
painkiller. If you
Yeah.
go deeper into it, you learn that sex is like a painkiller. And when you
Yeah.
want to numb all these feelings of feeling everything going wrong, most people
Mm.
rush to have sex
Yeah.
because it reduces that pain, it calms you
Mm.
down. Then for a
Mm.
moment, you're feeling okay. And that's
Mm.
what happens for the kids who grow in very unstable homes because of the pain and the rejection and everything they are going through. It's easier
Mm.
for them to rush to sexual encounters just to relieve that pain.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's now we will have also the alcoholism and everything to just numb of this feeling.
Yeah.
But I
Me.
guess we shall keep on having this discussion and go deeper and talk about all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, thank you so much because it is so very true. And I remember I read somewhere that you see sometimes when you're in a marriage, because right now we are in marriages and you think maybe my marriage is not working, so you plan to walk out of the marriage. Most of the time, you as a mother, because most of the time it's the mothers who go with the kids because it may happen before the kids are actually adults. So most of the time, it's the mother who will go to therapy, or sometimes they'll just go out, go rent somewhere, and they continue with their life without actually taking a thought of how their kids are handling the whole process. Because it's very easy for you to move on because while you're in that house, you're already going through that process. But for children, remember, they are just caught in the middle and they are forced to choose between mom and dad, which is so unfair because they can't. You cannot choose between your mom and your dad because they all play very different roles and very critical roles in your life. So at any point in time for parents, it's very important to always remember to go through therapy with the children. It's extremely important. Just because it's easy for you to move on and continue with your life as a mom or as a father, it's extremely important to always confirm that you're on the same page with actually your children. Because now children are usually left behind and they have to find alternatives of them soothing the pain and just organizing their mind again. And you see, these are children, they need guidance. They still do need guidance. And the best thing is, it is done in a professional manner. I really love that, what you said. And yes, we are going to go into the detail. I think it's going to be next week, God willing, on the mental health aspect, especially for those who are coming from broken homes, because that has been a very major contributing factor when it comes to kids who start engaging into early sexual activity or abuse, substance abuse of any kind, just because they just don't know any other way. And the other thing that has been shown was, of course, mass communication, media,
Mas-
mass media, yes, and pornography. And my question is this, because this has been a challenge. You see, we are living in an era where internet is almost a necessity in every home right now. And we have phones, the gadgets, phones, tablets, computers, like, you see. So, of course, you can say you are going to block and no, la, 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 la. But how best can we protect our children from all this? How do we protect our children from pornography? Like, you see, you want your child to be able to make that sound decision, not because you're policing them, but because they actually know it is wrong to do that. How do you achieve that?
Okay, as I said, and I remember there's a point you talked about alcoholism, and I wanted to say, before you get to alcoholism, there must have been alcohol in home.
Yeah.
So before you get to pornography, where did you first see it? And this doesn't necessarily have to be the parents. Who are the people in the home? We
Yeah.
have, house managers and everything. What are they watching at home? You
Mm,
know,
mm,
if you're leaving them home, what do they watch on the TV? What is happening? When you get
mm,
home yourself, what are you watching on the TV? Are the
mhm,
kids there? What are they seeing? Because that is
mm,
very important. Because you
mm,
realize that whatever they keep seeing, they will keep seeking it. And you might
mm,
not be able to control it at all completely. Because even if
mm,
you block, they will get it. They have a friend, maybe who has a phone. And again, the
mm,
issue of peers comes in. Who are these people they're hanging with? What are they
mm,
doing in their phones? What are the things they watch? Sometimes I raise a concern about the music listened to my house. Because what is it saying?
Yeah.
What is it saying? Is it child friendly? That's the other thing. Because everything is rated, parental guidance. Everything is rated. So are you ensuring that what's in that home is something you will be comfortable sitting down and watching with your kid? Because that means if you're comfortable, you can sit the two of you, the three of you, and watch it together. That is fine. But if it's not, let it not be watched in your home. You might not be able to control this because you have different people. Like if you have nannies, you don't know what they watch when you're out.
That's true.
So you have to vet, and that is the role of a parent. I tell people in parenting, there's no shortcut. If you cannot be a parent, please don't bear kids. Yeah. There's no shortcut. There's no blaming. There's nothing I can do as a parent because you brought this life here. It is your responsibility to take care of them till turn 18 and become an adult. So there's no excuse like, I can do this, you give it. I see sometimes we are giving Akina, what was his name, Mutua, to deal with whatever is happening. That is your job as a parent. What are you feeding your kids on? What is happening home? Are you able to vet even to your nannies and say, I don't like this behavior. I would rather let you go for the sake of my kids.
Yeah, that's true.
I would rather, even we have parents who watch pornography, you just open it there, then your kids comes in and then you're like, what is happening? Their curiosity. I want to, if you forget anything about this session, remember kids are very curious. And they see every single detail you do it. You'll be there with your phone and doing some shady thing and they'll have noticed.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow when you're not there, you will go look at what you are looking.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So you have to leave it by setting examples, control it. Who are the people in your home? And you have to set it yourself. What are my values?
Yeah.
What are my values again? If you're looking for a nanny, what kind of a nanny do I want? What are the things I expect you from when you're having my kids around? This is what I expect.
Yeah.
Let them watch those things that are appropriate for kids. If they're 2 years, there are things for 2 years. If they're 3 years, there are things for 3 years. Control that. If you need to watch something, sometimes I feel like my home is not my home anymore. Because if my kids are not sleeping, I want to put some funny, show and watch. I love to just go and do the family show. Because this is a job I signed for. No one forced me to do it.
It is true.
And whatever the situation. Whatever the situation, I chose what I chose. And I got to deal with my choice. So when you look at it from that level as a parent, you know what you can do and what you can't do.
Yeah. Wow, that's true. And that brings us to the second bit of what have been shown to be protective against children engaging in actual sexual activity at a young age. And the first thing is parenting. Like number 1, number 2, number 3, it's parenting. Then number 4, go to number 1 again. Because everything starts from home. The foundation of everything, the foundation of who we are today started at home. Whether it was broken or it was a very firm foundation, it started at home. The older you grow, when you become an adult, you take responsibility. You do not go about and start blaming everybody about what happened in your home. Okay? You need to take responsibility of your life and mend the brokenness, either by going through therapy or by talking to people who think are going to be of help to you. But foundations are built from home. It's extremely important. And one of the biggest protective factor, this is science, this is research based, has been 3 things. Parental supervision, the first thing, and that's what Regina has been saying all along. Are you there? Parental connectedness, are you connected? And parental bonding. First of all, I want you to talk about these 3 things. What do they mean? What is supervision? What is connectedness? And what is bonding? Because those 3 will protect your children from having early sexual debut. So what is parental supervision? What is bonding? And what is parental connectedness?
Okay, let's start with the parental supervision. And this is where you take the guide. You take the guide. You lead, and you lead by example, not by word, not by whatever you say, but
Mm.
how do I live?
Mm.
What am I teaching you? When I say this is wrong, is it what I'm doing? There are people who will talk about sexual, you cannot get into sexual encounters with everyone. But then again, how many sexual partners do you have?
Yeah.
That is a
Yes.
very major question I ask. And this is something I've realized, and I'm so sorry to say this. We have been having a lot of issues, especially when we talk about sexual partners, several of them. And I feel like, this is my opinion, I feel like it's more a man issue than it's a woman issue. And why? Where did we learn that? Go back home. What did you learn? When you observed your father, what did you learn? When you observed your mother, what did you learn? What did she tell you? And what did she
Mm.
do? So
Mm.
that is it. Walk the talk. When
Yeah.
you're supervising, are you giving reasons why? And
Mm.
are you living by those reasons? You can't tell your kids, I don't want you to find you, looking at pornography things. And that's the
Mm.
same thing you're doing.
Yeah.
You cannot. So as you supervise, it's more like lead by example, set example. Then the other
Mm.
thing is bonding,
Mm.
bonding, bonding. I tell people everyone needs a little touch. It doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah. That's
When your kid is a toddler, you swing them, you cuddle them, you do all these things. Then they get to 2, 3 years, then you are a grown man. You don't need to come closer. You don't give them hugs, you don't give them respect. Those things are important because that
mm.
is the bonding. It's scientific. When you're doing this thing, there's the production of an hormone that
Happy
creates
hormones.
attachment.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Mm.
happy hormones. And this is the same hormone that is produced during sexual encounters. So if this
Mm.
person is not bonded well, what
Mm.
what will they go for? They will
Mm.
seek this out. They will seek this out. If dad
Mm.
is not connected to me, I might end up dating someone, but I'm looking for a dad in that person.
It is
It's
true.
not simply because I'm dating them, but I'm looking for a dad. If as
Yeah.
a son, you're not connected to your mother, you will end
Mm.
up dating and you're looking for a mother. And I see this even with adults. You go marrying a mother, you're not marrying a wife. You
Mm.
need that lady to play the role of a mother in a life. Because that
Mm.
part is missing, that bonding, the touch, the swing, very important. Then
Mm.
connect to your kids, have conversation, be
Yeah.
conscious,
Mm.
listen, don't hear,
Mm.
communicate, don't talk, don't shout.
Mm.
What are they
Mm.
saying? Are you hearing? Are you
Mm.
reasoning with them? Are you listening to them? Or are you
Mm.
the dictator? Because we
Yeah.
have parents who say, my word is final.
Yeah.
And
Is
then
it?
again, we have
Is
the
it?
part of religion. I tell people, and I'm very honest, the
Mm.
Bible says, respect your parents, obey your
Mm.
parents.
Mm.
Whatever they say is final. So if you want to live that way, the dictator way, you're either
Yeah.
going to raise kids who are pleasers or you're going to raise kids who are rebellious. So
Mm.
when they are always dictated, they don't even learn boundaries, and sexuality involves a lot of learning boundaries. When do I
It is.
say no? When do I say yes? So if my
Mm.
mom is always saying, no, 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 I can never have a voice. If I meet someone and maybe I don't even give consent to this sex and we end up getting raped, I don't find it as an abnormal thing because,
Problem.
do I
Yeah.
have a say?
That's true.
I don't
That's
have a
true.
say at all. And most of the time when you communicate, you told, shut up when parents are talking, don't say anything, you
That's,
just keep quiet.
yeah.
So when someone rapes me or they do something, I won't come telling you because again, who am I to speak in front of grown people as a
Mm.
kid? When they touch me up inappropriately, am I able to
Mm.
say? Because again, there's not that connection. The moment
Mm.
you don't have that channel of connection, there's no way I'm going to speak. Even when I start having these sexual feelings and I don't know how to express them, I don't know who
Mm.
to have this conversation with. So
Mm.
I
Yeah.
act out as a teenager. I just go out acting out. I go out hanging out with peers. I get into these gangs. We're having these, parties and sexual encounters and everything. But what am
Mm.
I looking for?
Mm.
Connection. I need
Mm.
to be connected to someone. So that is very key.
Yeah.
Supervise, be the leader by setting the example, live by your values, by your words. Connect
Mm.
to your kids, have a clear communication, listen to them, set boundaries. Give them privacy. Let them have their space. Let them speak. If they say no, understand no. When you say no, let them understand it's a no. Bond with them. They're your kids. Hug them, Sometimes just carry them up, give them a hug so that they feel that connection and know, actually, this is not something I expect only from my mom. If I go hugging my dad, there's that connection. I don't need to go seeking that dad's love from another person. Yeah, that's what I can say about that.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that is the foundation that you're talking about, because a home should be a haven of peace, and the kids should be able to feel that. Now we have 10 minutes as we wind up. The other things that have been protective for both, sorry, for both girls and boys has been expectations that you set for your children and achievements that they attain as they grow up. And I want you to talk about expectations, but usually, and with this, it's academic expectations, and that could either be the curricular or the extracurricular, okay? Because is it right to set expectations for our children? First of all, we start from that. How do we set? Because again, you do not want to push your child to a point where they feel that their value is only on what they can do, vis-a-vis them deserving to be loved and cared for regardless of what they do or don't do. So first of all, I want you to draw that boundary as we wind up. It's 51 minutes. I hope we'll be done in the next 5 minutes or so. Yeah.
All right. So expectations. I have this question. Are they your expectations or are they your kids' expectations? Very important. You need to set that clear. And what I learned is most of us don't set expectations for our kids for them. We are doing it for us. Do you know how I will feel when my kid is shining in the whole country and is, the top kid? You recognize who Regina is, the mother to that kid. So is it about my son or is it about me?
Yeah.
It's very important to draw that boundary. Like, are they your expectations, or are you setting them for them or for you? Because sometimes I know we've grown in a society that is full of so many expectations, and we need to beat this expectation, and we need to be seen as this kind of person, And it's simply because of how did we grow. And I will draw this to some time back, I saw my teacher wrote, my son's teacher wrote something about, he needs to perfect in his writing. And I was like, do you mean you've not gotten? It's been a whole year, man. You don't even know how to. Then it was just happening in my mind. Then I thought when I was 4 years, I was the dumbest kid ever. I was always the last one. That one I will not like, the last one in class. And I thought about it and I was like, was this for my son or is it for me?
Yeah.
Then it was like, the haha moment came. It is all about me. I want people to see my son and see me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not setting the expectations for them. So the best way I think is examine your kids, see what they're interested in, what are they good in, what do they want to do. And that's where now we draw the line, because sometimes we tend to push our kids to things they don't even want to do. You're telling them to go be a doctor. Do they really even want to be a doctor? No.
Yeah.
What if they want to be a reggae musician? Is that something wrong? Because I tell people every person has a purpose in this world.
It's true.
Every person has a purpose. And when you mix with this kind of expectation and being pushed around, you might never discover what it is. And that's why we get to 90 and realize, oh man, this life, this is not what I wanted to do. So I need to go figure out my life at 90 years. It's okay. You still have maybe 10 years, which is better than someone who never figured it out at the end of the day. But again, I think it's good to let kids to see, what am I interested in? What do I want to do? And let them experiment, just guide them, let it be a learning process as they do this. You're also learning about yourself. Do you do the things you do because you want to do them or because of the people? So expectations, draw the line. Are they yours or is it your kids? Very simple.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. That was so enlightening. And as we wind up, I want you to to give us your closing remarks. I'm having a mental block. I want you to give us your closing remarks. And before you go, what I want to say is the summary of this all what I got is the parents have to be parents. The parents are leaders. And if you're a parent and you're a leader, please lead by example. And don't preach what you don't practice, because then you're confusing your child even more. And remember, your child cannot be your reflection. Your child is an individual, and let them be able to be themselves rather than being able to express whatever you were never able to accomplish. So, Regina, what are your closing remarks as we go?
Okay, so what I will say, I said I'm a reparenting coach. I
Yes.
reparent those people who didn't get to have the parents to parent them, to
Mm,
discover themselves and everything. And
yeah.
what I could say, and this goes to the parents, our kids are just souls we are entrusted with to take them
Mm,
through life. They have
mm,
a total different life with what we have.
mm,
So your work
mm,
is just to work with them as they discover who are they discover
mm,
their purpose and they accomplish it. So
mm,
what do? You just guide them. Matter
yeah.
sexuality, there's nothing to be ashamed about your sexuality. Sexual
Mm,
feelings are okay, they are natural. There's nothing wrong with
mm,
that. How you
mm,
react to that is what could be wrong. Yeah.
mm.
How you
Oh,
react to that is what could be wrong. So be comfortable with your sexuality first before you even start to take your kids through their sexuality. You have to
yeah.
be comfortable with yours. And
Mm,
if it's something you need to work on, seek therapy, seek guidance. Don't
mm,
leave your kids behind, they are humans. They also go through things, they go through feelings, they go through emotions. Work with
mm,
them. Don't assume our new total, they don't even know what they are doing. No, no, no.
yeah.
They literally know what they are doing. It's only
Mm,
that they need you to guide them through it. And there's something you mentioned about divorce. And I wanted to
mm,
say, divorce to kids is death to most of them.
mm,
So when you are able to go through these things and you coming from an unstable family,
mm.
kindly as you seek help for them too.
You
Let
can do.
them get to talk to someone to help them, go through these emotions they are going, and that maybe they could find a ground where they could understand, things are
Mm,
not
mm,
permanent, but
mm,
don't assume they don't know what is happening. It
yeah.
messes so many people up.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
so that's what I can say about all that.
yeah. Thank you so much, Regina. And yes, as Regina has said, she is a reparenting coach. And I'm going to tag her page and you can reach her. I've seen you have a 14-day challenge for. Please talk about that as we close.
Okay, so I have this 14 challenge. It's all about healing our childhood traumas.
Mm,
This is going basically to we learn about our traumas. What did we learn? The experiences we went through. How did they shape us, and how they involve the person we are. I tell people whatever we learn forms our core beliefs.
yeah.
Those beliefs we hold so dear, and our core beliefs is what forms our thoughts, and our
Mm,
thoughts is what forms our emotions and our feelings, and those feelings, emotions result to behavior. So every single behavior you have, you can trace it back to your core belief. And these
mm,
core beliefs are what we learn in the first 7 years of our life. We
mm,
might not reason. We are like, our mind doesn't process information. Between the
mm,
first 7 years, we just observe, we just get everything. It's like a sponge and water. We just get everything. And when we accumulate everything, that's what forms our belief.
mm,
Rewiring our brain, sorry. Our brain
mm,
is formed by those beliefs. Then the moment you have the beliefs, whatever we think, whatever our emotions, then our behavior. So clearly, that's what it's dealing with. What we learned, how it's affecting us, how can we
mm,
reprogram our brain so that we can be
mm,
able to conquer our destructive behaviors.
mm. Okay.
Yes.
So if you want more of that, I'm going to tag a page on the comment section and also on the post itself. Remember to follow it and please Remember, we cannot train our children to be better if ourselves are coming from a point of being broken. All right? We have to heal as parents, then we are going to bring up wholesome children. Thank you so much for everybody who took their time to watch, and thank you for all the reactions that you shared. And have yourselves a good night. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.